What's up, everybody? You know what time it is. It is time for the trenches. Welcome to the Sherdog weekly live chat. I am Anthony Walker, Sherdog contributor. And once again, I'm joined by a co host who needs no introduction, but we're going to introduce him anyway because a man this great deserves an introduction on a regular basis. You know him as Captain Credential. He's also known as a CEO collector. He's my friend. He's your friend. He's perhaps the most well accomplished and most intelligent, the greatest mixed martial arts journalist that has ever walked the face of the earth. His name is Jason Burgos. Jason, how are you feeling today?
I mean, even no matter what the day is like, if the day was kind of disappointing, terrible things happen when you get an introduction like that. There's no way you cannot be excited and feeling splendiferous, just feeling the herbal essence sensation of life. I thank you, sir. I commend you. Fantastic job as always. I'm excited as always to talk some MMA industry stuff. We have a lot of varied questions again this week. Great job from the forum, from all the folks giving us questions. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, man, it should be a good show today. We do have a lot to talk about. There's a lot been going on. But before we go into all the meat and of what we really want to get into today, you were on the ground in Philadelphia for the UFC fight for Justin Gaethje versus Edson Barboza. Any little nuggets that you can share with us from the experience of being there cage side?
I mean, one, just, and I'm sure you can appreciate this too as a fellow journalist, just that opportunity to be like, because there's for people that maybe don't notice or whatever when they're watching the show, there's like multiple rows of press, and usually the big dogs get that first row closest to the cage and then everybody else behind it. And this is the first time I was able to get that first row because a lot of the big dogs didn't go to the event, which I had a feeling might be possible. So that was cool to be able to be, because I've been to Bellator that close and I've been to PFL that close, but to be at UFC with their production value and how their presentation, it's pretty amazing. And to see certain things like the Justin Gaethje knockout, the Michael Johnson knockout from like fantastic angles, was fantastic. I mean, nothing too notable, like say backstage wise and stuff like that. We had Caitlin Chukagian and Michael Chiesa, which was Michael Chiesa was very cool in that. Found out he was a New York Knicks fan. Had to give him a little pound for that. Very few of us in the building in Philadelphia that day. And I mean, got to meet Oscar, your boy Oscar, which was very fun. Get to have a conversation with him, and I get to tell him that he sucks at UFC 3.
Yes, he does suck at UFC. I can confirm this.
Which went over very well with that one. And then, the weirdest thing to stand out for me, and I tweeted about it too, Justin Gaethje seemed very anti-media and like almost annoyed with the MMA media or kind of disdainful on a lot of levels. It was very surprising because he's such an exciting fighter. Everybody in the building loved him. He had put on a great fight. And just, I don't know if maybe that's how he always is, or maybe he just was put in a bad mood because supposedly Paul Felder challenged him, to a fight in the ESPN post-fight, but he brought that up saying that Paul Felder was stealing his thunder, and maybe he was bothered by that, but he seemed very bothered. I mean, he even went the route of, oh, you guys don't fight, so you'll never know what it's like to be in there kind of stuff, which is not true. It's not false. That's true, but we can still be informed observers of the sport and have an idea what's going on. But that was one of the more notable takeaways to end the night. He very, very unhappy with the media.
All right. Well, I mean, while we're speaking of Justin Gaethje, we'll just segue that into our first question of the evening, and that question is from Yellow Bano. Wow, the names. The names always surprise me. All right, so Yellow Bano asks, how would Gaethje do against Kabhi?
Damn, I don't know. Because I can't say I've watched a lot of his World Series of fighting bouts and seen him be tested by a high-level wrestler. He really hasn't had that matchup in UFC. It's Michael Johnson doesn't really wrestle. Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier don't really wrestle. James Vick definitely doesn't wrestle, and Barboza doesn't wrestle. So I don't know. I know he has the wrestling background, but at this level, you're fighting some of the best of the best. I really couldn't say. So in that case, I don't know why you wouldn't pick Khabib and feel Khabib is a heavy favorite, because Khabib's not going to fight crazy. He's going to take him down, and he's going to push to take him down. So, I mean, I don't know. But I'd be fascinated to watch.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting style matchup. I mean, we have seen guys at least attempt some wrestling with Justin Gaethje. I think Dustin Poirier was able to get a takedown. I think Eddie Alvarez got one as well at some point. But we know that Justin Gaethje is a very accomplished collegiate wrestler. And he's got some serious grappling chops. However, he just decides he doesn't want to use them. Now, a guy like Khabib, maybe he has trouble getting Gaethje down, but Khabib has taken down and steamrolled pretty much everyone that's been put in front of him. So I wouldn't exactly bet on that. But one thing for sure I can bet on is that I would be willing to bet that Gaethje can take the shots that Khabib would throw at him if he had trouble getting him down. And I'm not quite sure if Khabib is going to last to the shots that Gaethje is going to throw upon him. But that's kind of a consistent line that you can put with Justin Gaethje against almost anybody. If you have a single takedown in your repertoire, you might have trouble getting Justin Gaethje down. You just might. I think we can rule out him trying to take you down because that's just not part of his MO at all. But I think no matter what, one very interesting thing about Justin Gaethje is that his style matches up in a very unique way with everyone in the division. So everyone is going to have a tough time with a guy like him. And that's just how it is. Even the most elite of strikers that might be able to maintain a little bit of range and stuff, hey, he's going to close that distance and he's going to make it ugly, at least for spots. And your chin better be able to handle it. His chin probably will be able to handle what you throw at him. So I think no matter what, if you're Justin Gaethje, you're looking at the rest of the division with high hopes as to what you can do. And that goes beyond just the regular fighters believe they can beat anybody sort of thing. It's the just looking at his style versus everyone's style from an objective standpoint. He matches up very well with a lot of people. And at the very least, you're going to get an exciting fight out of it, even if he doesn't get called the victor in the end. So.
And what's great about the matchup and makes it fun, even if Khabib is a big favorite, we don't know or we really have an inkling of what can beat him because he's never lost. I mean, we could speculate on what might work, but we're not really sure. So why not Justin Gaethje? Why can't his style be it? Maybe it can be. And I'd be fascinated to see two guys who fight in a style where it's pushed forward and aggressive, how that plays out. And I can see it being Khabib backing up, sort of similar to the Iaquinta fight. And you don't want to back up on Justin Gaethje. That's a bad thing to do. So why not? Maybe he has that style, that really could give Khabib serious trouble. Maybe he's the guy to beat him. You never know.
All right, so we got a good follow-up question from Jetty and the Benz, another one of my favorite names on the forum. All right, so Jetty and the Benz ask, what fighter would you match with Gaethje to make the most exciting fight ever?
I mean, off the top of my head, in the division, I'd have to think Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz and him could be ridiculous. Because, I mean, we've gotten some really good ones. Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, those are some of the top strikers in the division. So those are already out the door. I mean, yeah, you could throw a Conor, but Nate Diaz would be fascinating. That Nate has a good chin, great cardio, heavy output. Like, what would that fight be where it's two heavy output guys, And Nate using that range, maybe that range gives Justin Gaethje some trouble. Who knows? But that would be the one for me that I'd be really intrigued by.
Yeah, that Nate Diaz, it definitely sounds like a good one, man. I'm thinking Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis is a guy who definitely can endure ungodly amounts of punishment. He's a guy who can dish out ungodly amounts of punishment. And Justin Gaethje has those same traits as well. Then there's always that possibility that Pettis is going to do some sort of cartwheel and spin on his finger and helicopter kick you upside the head. Like, there's always that possibility, which makes things exciting, which gives it a wrinkle of danger that you always have to worry about with Anthony Pettis. And then also, it's not going to be a grappling battle as well. And even if it is, they have very interesting styles of grappling. I mean, Justin Gaethje is the anti-grappler, kind of like Chuck Liddell. And Pettis is a guy, if he's on his back, he's going to be very aggressive, and he's just going to go for submissions no matter what. All right, so we got a comment on the chat from the Proctor Y. I mean, it's spelled in some strange way. You know how people use threes as E's and whatnot. So I don't know. But he's asking. He's saying that Pettis quits under pressure, though. No, Pettis does not quit under pressure. Pettis has proven himself consistently to be one of the toughest guys on the roster.
Yeah, maybe his body, but not his mind.
I mean, I don't even think his body quits.
I think he did against Ferguson. His body just
his hand broke and his coach stopped it. His coach stopped it. Yeah. So that was Duke Rufus making a very smart decision for the future of his career. But we saw him like just get savaged by Rafael dos Anjos and didn't quit. We saw, I mean, the Dustin Poirier fight is the one thing you might be able to say, but I think he like broke a rib in a body triangle or something, which is like no human being is meant to endure that. That's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, man, Pettis does not quit under pressure. I can't even give that any real thought.
Going back to the last question of who might be a fun fight for Gaethje, I can't believe I didn't think of this. The guy, and this probably better than Nate Diaz, the guy that fought and put that crazy pressure on Anthony Pettis. What about Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje? And Tony Ferguson does not have a dance partner, right? Everybody's kind of booked up. Quinta's booked up. Poirier's booked up. Eddie Alvarez left. Conor's gone. Khabib suspended. That's the one guy of his life he gets back together. Boy, that fight could be effing nuts.
Yeah, that could be nuts. And shout out to designated member on the YouTube chat who said that just as you said it. That Ferguson would be intense. Like that would definitely be a great fight. I have trouble talking about Tony Ferguson fighting right now because he's got much more serious problems. Yeah. So I don't even want to get myself worked up hoping to see Tony Ferguson yet until we know for sure that this guy is good, he's healthy, his family is straight, and then we entertain Tony Ferguson, the fighter. More concerned about Tony Ferguson, the man, right now. But I would definitely go home and play UFC 3. Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje.
Hell yeah.
All right. So let's see here. What else we got? Let's go back to our questions here. This is from Europe One, the weekly Kung Fu Bow for you, sir. He says, and I think this is directed at me. So he says, I know this hurts, but we got to talk about David Branch getting choked out in less than a minute. How does this happen to a Renzo Gracie black belt? Why does the world not make sense anymore? Okay. All right. So yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I root for the black fighters. What? Do something.
I was surprised by that though. That was surprising.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for quite some time. I mean, David Branch has been one of the more underrated guys in mixed martial arts for a very long time now. And while we might not think a lot about World Series of Fighting as it used to be, of course now it's PFL. I mean, a guy who is simultaneously defending the belt in two different divisions is a pretty big deal.
And beat the current PFL middleweight champion too.
Exactly. That's a pretty big deal if you're doing that. And David Branch has also shown himself to be one of the more well-rounded guys on the roster as well. A very good striking ability, a very legit Renzo Gracie black belt as well. But I mean, I definitely didn't like the sight of this because I wish that David Branch got his due in the UFC, but I didn't think a whole lot bad about the chokeout because it almost seemed like he fell into it. It seemed like this sort of random clashing of bodies, and he fell into this choke. And if you've ever rolled before, that sort of shit happens all the time. The slightest slip, the slightest bump, whatever, you can find yourself falling forward with your neck out, and a guy snatches your neck, and that just happens. Now, I do think this is a good time for him to consider moving up to 205. He was a light heavyweight champion in World Series of Fighting, so he has shown himself skilled in that weight class, and it's still comically thin. They still need bodies. He's 37 or 38 years old, and this is getting to the tail end of your career. Maximize that time. Maximize that time as a top contender, because right now he is far, far out of the title picture in middleweight.
I think your points are fair. 205, I think, might be. I don't know if he can do that. The weird thing, and I was talking to a colleague who writes for a website and stuff like that at the event, and David Branch, and I agree, he's a good fighter, but he just kind of hits a UFC ceiling. He had a previous one in the UFC and fell flat. then he went to World Series and did good. He's come back here and he's had a couple of good surprise wins, but he's fallen flat again. It's just like he's a good fighter, but not every guy can compete at the highest level. And he could probably stay in the company and do solid, but maybe he's just one of those guys that, when he starts, the better the competition gets, he has his issues. And sometimes he gets surprised, but more times than not, he's not elite, which is not a bad thing. Many fighters are not elite. That's why they are elite. But it's tough. I mean, I agree with you in that I would say my brain would say 170 because he doesn't seem like a large, he's
not making 170, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Lewis Taylor's going down to 170, and that guy's got a lot of muscle on him. I would never have thought that, but but yeah, you're getting older. Probably going down is not as good as going up. So if you were to make a division change, I just think of him versus some of those large, big 205ers like a Glover Teixeira or a Blakovic. Like I can't see him in those fights doing well.
Well, I mean, I'd have to definitely disagree with you on one point. I mean, I don't think he's a guy who in his original UFC stint washed out or proved he wasn't capable of fighting at a UFC level. He went 2-2 in the organization. His losses were to Gerald Harris in admittedly a stunning KO from a slam. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty rare occurrence right there. And that was like the 10 minutes that Gerald Harris was on fire. And then his other loss, the loss that ended up getting him booted from the promotion, was to Rusumir Palhares while he was ripping apart everyone's knees. A trend that continued for years afterward in multiple promotions. So I have a hard time saying that David Branch hasn't proven himself to be elite. And then also look at what he did after that UFC stint. His only loss after leaving the UFC originally was to Anthony Johnson in Titan, and he survived to a decision at a time where Anthony Johnson was knocking everyone's heads off. So I do think that his run in the sport has not been. It's hard to look at it in the light of it was very successful in some ways, but you can't call him a failure. You can't say. I don't think you can fairly say that he's not elite. But I will say this: his return to the UFC has proven that there is definitely a ceiling for him at middleweight, and perhaps that ceiling is a little bit higher if he goes to light heavyweight without the cut.
At the top of the ceiling, it reads "not elite."
Well, I mean, the thing is, light heavyweight is so thin right now. It doesn't take much. Like right now, the last guy who challenged for the light heavyweight title was a guy who barely scratched the surface of an elite competitor at 185. Oh, and yes, the next guy fighting for the light heavyweight title has the same story.
Yeah, that's why it's worth it.
Yeah, that's why it's worth it. When you're at his age, why even bother trying to fight your way back up a ladder and endure this weight cut when you can just say, hey, I'm gonna eat my cheeseburger and I'm gonna fight at an elite level. Why not?
If you were David Branch, and of course it's different situations, he's been a fighter for a long time, what would you rather do? Try your hand at light heavyweight in UFC or go and be a middleweight in Bellator or ONE? Because he could be the middleweight champion of Bellator. I think he could.
Yeah, I'm pretty
or
sure.
ONE,
I'm pretty sure. Well, no, who's the middleweight champion in Bellator? Is Gegard Mousasi? No.
I mean, he probably should lose to him, but at least he would get to a title shot. And then crazy thing happened.
Yeah, he'd get to a title shot. He definitely could get to a title shot. I mean,
he's not getting a title shot in the UFC at all. He's not going to get there.
At 205, it's much more possible.
What would you say? I would say it's 15% chance.
Yeah, the thing is, the guys have to fight, and if they're pulling up middleweights anyway, Luke Rockhold is probably going to be next in line if he beats Jan Blachowicz. So once again, you have a middleweight that moved up. So why not? At this point, why not? If he's in his UFC contract, maximize it.
Now I'm going to give you some names. Tell me if you think he could win these fights. Thiago Santos.
Well, he beat him already. He knocked him out.
Okay, so that's one. Johnny Walker.
Honestly, don't know. We haven't seen enough of Johnny Walker. I would
Dominic Reyes.
Dominic Reyes, I think, will win that.
Glover Teixeira.
I think he could beat Glover Teixeira. This version of Glover Teixeira.
Really?
Yeah, Glover Teixeira is also in the same boat. They're about the same age. They've been through a lot of wars, had long careers. I don't see that as a far distant possibility. I would favor Glover Teixeira.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Favors.
Win.
Let's see who else is out there. I mean, John Jones we're never going to talk about. Who's some other good light heavyweights out there? Let's go to the rankings.
Yeah. You're trying to think very hard, and that's exactly why.
I'm sorry, I don't have an encyclopedia memory of all these because I'm going to show you right now, Anthony, as I go to the rankings.
That's the only reason why you don't remember is because you're remembering different brands of hair gel. Okay, that's why.
Without a doubt, this is the weakest. One of the Jan Blachowicz. I don't think he's beating Jan. Volkan Ozdemir, Corey Anderson, no. Alexander Gustafsson, no. Jimmy Manua, Alir Latifi, Oven St. Preux. You see him as favorites? Any of those?
Off the top of my head, I see him. I see him being able to beat a lot of. The thing is, he'll have an easier time doing that than fighting his way up to middleweight.
What about let's see what's going on at welterweight. Nah, forget it. He ain't got no chance there.
I mean, well, the thing is, at middleweight, you're already far behind.
Yeah.
That's you're already far behind. Light heavyweight is wide open right now. It's wide open.
The light heavy, so for those guys, yeah. I mean, he would see Anthony Smith got a fair shake because he got favorable matchmaking and that he got some older veterans that they can build off of. I feel like David Branch wouldn't get that. No, I feel like they'd give him Corey Anderson, and it's already.
They might do that. That is definitely a possibility. I'm not saying that David Branch moving up to light heavyweight would be the cure all, and he'd be in a title shot.
You
by
saying
December. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is he has a better chance of maximizing the time he has left by moving up to light heavyweight again. That's what I'm saying. And the conditions at light heavyweight are very clear. It is a wasteland. It is a wasteland. Are you gonna try to fight your way back in a jungle that you've already failed at, or you can go ahead and just plow your way through this wasteland, and you might have a shot.
Oof. Jay, you tell us, what do you percentage-wise you think he has any shot in that division? And then we'll go on to the next question. I'm not saying that he's going to get a title shot. He's going to beat anybody and get. You are proclaiming he's getting a title shot next year.
I'm proclaiming that 1, you're a jackass. 2, I'm right. 3, you're wrong. And 4, David Branch has a better chance of making a statement at light heavyweight at this point than he does at middleweight with the remaining years of his career. So,
I don't agree.
Case closed, bitches. All right.
Wrong.
So, let's move on from your foolishness. All right. All right. So, let's move on here. All right. So, we're going to go to the poll question. Let me go ahead. Oh, you know what? Jay's going to jump in here with the
Walker OSP. No, stop it. He's not being OSP.
With the truth serum right here, we're going to read Jay's comments to let you know how wrong you are right now. Jay says Branch
could be Anthony Smith,
Jimmy Manuwa, Glover Teixeira, OSP, Johnny Walker, and Shogun, but he's 37 and aging fast. Thank you, Jay. That's exactly my point.
Jay even put a hole. He built the boat for you and then put a hole in it, say, but he's old, so it's going to sink in.
But that's the same argument I had. Oh my God.
I don't know. Yeah, he can go there and beat some guys. Is he beating those guys? I don't think so.
But it's much more possible than him working his way up middleweight. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's okay to be wrong, Jason. It's okay. It's all right. Like
3% chance better.
I mean, you suck either way. That's all I'm saying.
I don't. I'm fantastic.
You're still some trash.
You gave me a great opening.
I take back my introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the trashiest co-host ever, Jason Burgos. All right, so
I got a
we're gonna
cough.
move. We're gonna move on to the poll question, and I'm sure this is not the last time we're gonna clash on this broadcast because I got some smoke for you later. All right, so the poll this week was about the craziness between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, and yes, we're just as sick of talking about Conor McGregor as you probably are of hearing it. But this man keeps finding himself in the headlines, and we got to talk about it. So the poll question this week was asking whether or not this Twitter war between him and Khabib has gone too far. So 35% say Conor went too far. 26% say, oh my God, who the hell cares? 19% say, excuse me, neither went too far. 15% say both went too far, and only 4% saying Khabib went too far. So what do you think about this, Jason?
I think those numbers are fairly good. I mean, 1 and 2 could be switched, 3 and 4 could be switched, but yeah, I think they're fairly dead on. It's really a battle between this Conor taking it to great lengths and God, who cares anymore? I'm just so over it. But yeah, I mean, when you're going in on somebody's wife and religion and that stuff randomly, and it's getting ridiculous. And like what Khabib, maybe Ali Abdelaziz said is bad too. But I mean, when you're provoked, you're gonna say some ridiculous things. So I mean, yeah, I agree with the poll for at least for the 1 and 2.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely of the camp that both of them have gone too far. But I'm also not exactly just gonna point the finger at both of them and say, "Oh, you're the bad guy." Bad you, because we have all encouraged this shit. All of us, from us as media members to you people out there listening and watching right now, we have all encouraged this shit. We are all guilty parties in this. And I think it's time that we take some responsibility. Now, I'm not saying at all that trash talk is the worst thing in the world, because no matter what, the basest instincts of us, we love that shit. I was there at UFC 229, and I had a great time seeing them have a genuine hatred for each other. Was fun and entertaining to watch. I know you were there for the Brooklyn press conference, or was that
at Radio City?
At Radio City, okay, that's Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you're there for that. Like, it was entertaining to see that, even if it was ugly, even if it was bad, even if it was all these things that we don't want to admit that it was. But at the same time, it was wrong in a lot of ways. It was a lot of wrong on both sides, and we are all responsible for perpetuating this. So immediately after UFC 229, in my post-fight column, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, I felt that ugly energy in the building. And I talked about, say, oh, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. A few days later, I thought it over, and then I just completely wrote an unauthorized op-ed about this, that I think I called it like my guilty plea, or our guilty plea, or something like that. And the whole point of it was, we are all guilty in this. We're retweeting, we're liking it, we're sharing it, we're talking about it now. And you know what? When they match them up again, and they use the commercials with the picture of Khabib's wife with the veil over her face, and they use the bus footage, and they use footage from the brawl. When we see that commercial, oh, sign me up, take my money. We're all gonna do it. But I do think it's a certain point in time where we have to have a little wisdom about what this could lead to. We've seen these two guys go at it, and we've seen criminal acts result from it. You know, this is not going to get any better at this rate. It just isn't. And I think it's time we realize that. And I think it's time that we, I would never say stop them from saying don't stop someone from saying what they want to say, but accept the consequences. Know what you're dealing with. If you're not going to be so outraged that you change the channel, kind of hard to talk about your outrage. Because we're still supporting it with our dollars. But I think it's just time we're honest about what it is. And maybe I'm a little bit sensitive to this sort of thing right now. I straight up and down, I'm mourning Nipsey Hussle right now. I'm mourning that loss. Great rapper, great community leader. And as a black man, seeing a guy building up his community being taken out deeply affects me. Brings me back to to Tupac and Biggie, and we've seen that feud being compared to it a lot. And words can lead to bad shit. We see it over and over again. And one thing that we're getting from this that we're not getting from Colby Covington, no matter how many times Ali and Kamaru Usman run up on him, is that Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov are street motherfuckers, okay? They handle things like street guys. They handle things like guys who are about action outside of the cage. So there are incidences between these two camps that the general public is not privy to that I've heard of that are really ugly. Like some other violence that has happened with these camps. It's not going to get any better. So when this shit hits the fan, let's remember what we're talking about now. Let's remember how excited we are about this shit and think about, is it worth it? So just think about that. We're all responsible. I accept my piece in this. Yeah, and that's that. I think everybody needs to accept their piece. And I don't think we'll ever be rid of this sort of stuff. But when you're talking about someone's religion, you're talking about someone's family, expect someone to run up on you. Expect someone to run up on you. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. I'll tell you this, and I'm sure you can attest to this too. You say something crazy about my wife, I'm probably going to run up on you.
Yeah.
And someone say something about your son, you're gonna run up on him. Mm-hmm. That's just what it is. So all y'all people out there, watch your mouths. Let's rein it in, gentlemen. Mm-hmm. And how convenient. This is another time where, and I know we keep coming back to the UFC as a business model and about the employment status of these guys, but this is one of the benefits that the UFC is enjoying about this independent contractor nonsense, because they can't enforce but so much of a code of conduct if you're not employees.
Yep.
So this is another way for them to wipe their hands of this and say, hey, it's out of our hands. It's another way for them to pass the buck on the commission and say, hey, it's out of our hands. So the main people that are reaping the financial rewards of this aren't taking responsibility for it. That is a problem. That is a problem, and let's think about this in the future. All right. Anybody else?
No, I agree with everything.
All right, cool. Yeah, because I kind of jumped. That was a little rant right there. I do that from time to time. All right, so let me see what we got. We got some stuff in the YouTube chat here. Let's see. Someone said that to give cultural background to the Kabhi picture, saying his wife wasn't wearing an Islamic veil. It was a piece of cloth. It's a tradition among his people. It goes back to when cloth was a viable commodity. Oh, interesting. Let's see. People telling me I'm wisdom's on point. Thank you so much. That was Frank McGregor that said that. Frank McGregor. Who will replace you as co-host on the Trenches at this rate.
Please.
With your blasphemy from earlier. Let's see.
He's also the same guy who brought up, I believe, is Carolina and Waterson the sexiest fight ever, which got you stuck. So I don't know if you're prepared to work with him.
Actually, that is Frank McGregor. You nasty man. But probably gonna be replacing Jason Burgos.
It's all right. Me and Jay will start our own podcast, right, Jay?
I'm a guest appearer to just screw it all up. All right. So let's move on. So thank you everybody for your comments in the chat. Keep them coming. I'm gonna circle back and we'll run through some more of those comments. All right. So Jason, I'm definitely gonna lean on you for this one because you're definitely more of the pro wrestling fan than I am. But this
even though you're going to AEW very soon.
I am going to AEW, but I'm probably going to be inebriated the whole time and I won't remember anything. That is my goal. All right, so this question is from Eon001. He asked, which is a cool name. That sounds like a sci-fi movie. He says, what are your opinions on the John Oliver WWE rant about independent contractors, healthcare for competitors, and retirement? Oh, what I segued without even realizing I was segueing about the independent contractors. Yeah. Shout out to me. Salute to me. All right. All right, Jason. So you did watch John Oliver's piece about the WWE, right?
Yeah, no, I watch the show every single week, and I remember I DVR, so I didn't watch it live. So I heard about that he focused on WWE this week, and I was like, holy shit, really? That's interesting because his stuff is focused on important issues. It's global issues, international politics, all that stuff. So of him to focus on WWE was interesting, but made sense because WrestleMania is this Sunday. The segment was fantastic because one, he came across as a fan, a legit fan who likes the industry and likes that form of entertainment. So it was more of a position as someone who cares that wants to see better. And it was just like all his key segments. It was a lot of excellent points based off of facts, based off of information, and how the process is abused in terms of, the WWE has a lot of things they can get away with because of this ongoing, independent contractor thing, which is a problem. Even it isn't just WWE, and I hope it gets the notice on in MMA and stuff like that because it's a serious problem. And how that performers don't have like a healthcare plan. Like as far as I can tell, the performers don't have healthcare where they're sick or they have some kind of issue. They only cover for like in the ring issues, which is a big thing. So the main focus of it, which is and some of it a fair bit I knew about, was how performers are taken care of after the fact. And this is where unions come in big, because with the unions in like the NFL, which this stuff recently came for the NFL too. The NFL is pretty bad in its own level, which John Oliver made the point. If you're worse than the NFL, damn, you need to fix the issue. But like with the unions and stuff in the other sports, a lot of these sports have pension plans and they have retirement plans and they have healthcare after the fact because you're going to brutalize your body. Professional wrestling and in MMA, there is no such thing. So unless you were super smart and saved your money and invested in all the right things, which not everybody's going to do, afterwards you're screwed. And for something as brutal like as professional wrestling and MMA, both of them are sports where people are dealing with pain and will take medications and stuff like that to deal with it and get addictions and all these kinds of things. To not be taken care of on the back end is a big deal. And it's disheartening and it's kind of heartbreaking. So I'm glad they showed, put a spotlight on it and bring about maybe a greater issue of why unions are so important and maybe people care. And it'll be fascinating to see if the audience for WrestleMania this Sunday, which is the New York, New Jersey area, which is a boisterous bunch, if they make any point, because they ended the segment on the fans in professional wrestling. They can make a movement. They can make change by making their voices heard, and they've done it before. Maybe this is a interesting moment on the biggest stage of the entire year and a humongous card to say something about it.
I mean, it's pretty interesting. We're seeing more and more like stances being taken on the combat sports side. A lot of like moral stances being taken because WWE was just in some sort of controversy with. They had a show in Saudi Arabia, I think, and
where women can't perform.
Right, and it was some backlash about that.
Because it was after the Khashoggi thing. So most of major companies were like, we can't do business with them. They just killed a journalist and cut his head off. But they still went.
Right. So definitely interesting things developing with the WWE. And of course, that is not mixed martial arts, but the WWE and the UFC have a lot of things in common. Yep. I mean, Dana White essentially modeled the UFC after Vince McMahon's blueprint for WWE. So a lot of things that are very relevant to our sport as well. So I think it would behoove us all to pay a little bit of attention. What's going on the business side at WWE? Keep in mind, they also were the first ones to jump into the digital streaming for their product as well. So they're on the cutting edge of a lot of things, and both organizations share some of the same problems, some of the same good things as well. So definitely something to watch. And I'm not sure if I'm watching WrestleMania. I probably will.
I can't blame you if you're not. It's not your thing, but it's fair enough.
Yeah. Shazam comes
I
out
don't
this
really
weekend,
watch.
So
it is.
Watching Shazam at some point.
Speaking of Shazam, I got my tickets for Avengers Endgame, baby. I can't wait.
Yeah, I saw that text. Yeah. I still haven't decided what I'm going to wear yet, but it's probably going to be all Captain America.
Did you get your tickets?
I got some tickets. Yeah, I got some tickets.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'm going Saturday. I didn't even try for Thursday. I went straight to Saturday.
I'm ready to go, man. Let's get it on, man. Thanos about to catch these intergalactic ass.
Yes,
that's for sure.
Yes. Man. Are you going to see Shazam? I'm very interested in Shazam.
I'm into it. Yeah, I'm gonna see what that's about. I got a Shazam t-shirt too, so I'm gonna rock that when I go see the movie. All right. This is nerd life, baby. It's what we do.
Of course, that's how we do.
Of course. So I'm gonna address. We got a couple of comments in the chat that I want to address. So we got someone asking about talking about one championship. That is the very next question. So stick around, my man. All right. We got a hater in the chat by the name of Jason Hartley, who is also my boss at MMA on Point. So follow Jason Hartley on Twitter. He's a good man, good guy right there. I like that guy. But he said pro wrestling is for nerds. Going to play some Spider-Man on my PS4 after this. The intelligent irony of Jason Hartley. Such a hater.
Hartley, you 100% yet in the main game? You probably not. I am. Bam.
Oh man. Burgos, you just out there ruffling feathers today.
Mic drop, yo.
All right, so now let's get into this one talk because I have a feeling this is where we're definitely going to clash.
Oh boy, here we go.
All right, so we'll start off nice at first. We'll start off nice. I don't want to hurt your feelings too bad.
Okay? I don't know how I got lumped in like I work for the company or something at this point, but we'll continue.
Oh, apparently I look like a guy who has a heavy right hand and legit one punch KO power. Thank you, Tomas the Tank. Thank you.
Did he owe you money or something? Did you that's like the favor you told him to come in the comment?
He did owe me money, and he said that such a thing and believed that he would have paid me already by now. So all right. So we got a question from another regular contributor, Yo Jimbo. Shout out to you, Yo Jimbo. He asked, after a nasty loss in his one debut, has Eddie Alvarez lost a step, or is Timothy Nastayukin that good?
Nastayukin, it might be a little bit of both. Nastayukin's good. I mean, he beat Amir Khan. I think he beat Edward Foleyang too. I know he's beat a couple of the better lightweights, and I talked about Eddie Alvarez with that because I wasn't too familiar with him. And Eddie Alvarez brought that up in our conversation. Like, look, this guy's being pretty good fighters. He's legit. So young up and coming fighter. The guy has big power. That's his thing. It's not like, he subbed him surprisingly or whatever. And Eddie Alvarez is what, Jay, if you can confirm, what is he, 35, 36 now? Lot of mileage on him, a lot of career. You got to slow down at some point. And we might have already saw the signs in the two Poirier fights and stuff like that, though he looked very good against Gaethje and won that fight. You got to slow down at some point. And I'm curious if jet lag had any factor. He was only going, Jay confirmed he's 35. He said he was going on 8 days before. I mean, Shinya Aoki, when I interviewed him, he said he didn't want to go to the U.S. because he didn't want to deal with jet lag. That's why he rarely fought here. So I know Eddie Alvarez felt that he's done the Japanese trips before when he was fighting for Dream, but he was a much younger man when he did that. So I'm wondering if jet lag had any effect on him, and then he's older, because he said in his comments, I think on Instagram, he just had problems pulling the trigger. For me, that's usually an issue with an older fighter. I mean, but then if you add jet lag, forget about it. So I'm not writing him off or anything like that. It was a big surprise, but yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. Eddie Alvarez did not look like himself when that fight started.
No.
But then the moment a fighter says that he had trouble pulling the trigger, I get really scared.
Yeah.
And then you think about his history, the wars with Michael Chandler, the wars with Dustin Poirier, like the beating that Conor McGregor put on him. This is a guy who's endured a lot of punishment throughout a very long career. So at some point, especially around the time you hit your mid-30s, might be when it all catches up to you. And then you factor in the jet lag and stuff. He also said that one of the first punches that landed split his eyelids.
Yeah, ugly picture.
Really nasty picture that he posted up with that. So these are all things to consider. I want to see him fight at least one more time before I'm ready to put a nail in his coffin. But not a good look if that's your debut. But hey, if one thing we know about Eddie Alvarez, he's resilient as all hell. So if there's anything left in the tank, he's going to exhaust it to make it right.
And I saw someone on Twitter, I think it's Mike Friedel from the Body Lock. I think that's what he writes for. He brought up the question of, is that a good thing for one that he lost? Is it a bad thing for one that he lost? And I thought it was a good bad thing. If Nastayukin goes all the way and wins the Grand Prix, it's actually a great thing because they just really just made a star for Eddie Alvarez. But if Nastayukin loses his next fight, oof, it's like, damn, man, we got a big time free agent that's making a lot of money, and we might have got him. Just like all of us sports fans know, when you sign, or you may be knowing, you get LeBron, and he ain't making any difference at this point in his career. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that you have to consider. But this is the what happens with this tournament format.
Yeah.
If you're promoting a tournament correctly, the guy who wins is the guy that gets boosted. The guy who wins is the guy that the promotion decides to put their muscle behind. That is how a tournament is run properly. Now, of course, I'm sure everybody was betting the house on Eddie Alvarez. There's so many people that weren't even bothering to watch this because they thought it would be a one-sided slaughter, and it was. It just was the other way around.
Yeah.
So I want to see him fight one more time before we do anything. So we got a good follow-up question on the chat here. We got Mike S asks, does Eddie's loss say more about UFC's roster or ONE's roster? What do you think?
I think it says more for ONE because you just nailed it. Everybody thought him and Dimitri are going to go in there and just run roughshod and just destroy people right away. But he lost, he got finished, and it was pretty decisive, and he didn't look that great. So I mean, I think it's more helpful for ONE. We all know the UFC has a fantastic roster, and even if you can't even, like I was saying before, you can't go, he was losing on the way out. No, he just beat Justin Gaethje, who everybody's loving right now. So he's not done or washed up. So I think it's more helpful for ONE. It makes them look good, and it makes Nastyukin a much more known name now to us on the west side of the hemisphere.
Right. All right. So another comment in the chat from Diego Tango. He thinks that Conor McGregor fight is what it was the beginning of Eddie Alvarez undoing. At least what I'm interpreting from what I see in his comment here. He also says, I have a nice beard. Thank you, Diego. Thank you. Yeah. Another potential co-host for the Trenches.
What's with all these Anthony? I gelled the hair for you people. I mean, that's it. I'm not.
There's Captain Credential backlash because the greatness of your reputation has now clouded your once humility. Now you're just this arrogant, pompous, So
I've gone heel. I can go heel.
You've gone full heel. You're like
heel. Okay, that's fine.
Stone Cold Burgos or something.
All right, that's fair enough. I like that.
All right. Yeah, we'll take it. All right, so continuing down the path of ONE championship, a new era. Europe One ask us, so why were Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez fighting giants? And yes, this is probably where we're going to clash.
I mean, and we talked about this thoroughly in a text. If you're not watching ONE enough, and I'm still getting familiar with ONE, how they do the weight classes. Their weight classes are very different than North America and traditional weight classes. Their weight, like, for example, I think when I was looking up, flyweight is like 126 to like 132. And then lightweight, just think it's the same thing. So technically, Eddie Alvarez is probably fighting welterweights or somewhere in between welterweights and lightweights. And Demetrius was pretty much fighting in between flyweights and bantamweights. And the only thing I can say is that's just how they do it. And both of these men knew what they were getting into. And based off their hydration protocol, which I get it, it's a lot of questions around it. That's the divisions they chose to fight it. I can't get on ONE for it. These men chose to fight in those weight classes, and they chose to fight bigger men. And Demetrius Johnson even said he can't do the smaller weight class in ONE because he's just not going to be able to stay within the weight he needs to, and still make it based on their protocol. So this is what he's got. He's fighting flyweight ONE, and it's more like bantamweight UFC.
All right. So before I completely eviscerate this argument right here, Diego also wants to compliment you. He says you're wearing nice glasses. So there
Thanks. We go. Great.
So it's just so ungrateful. See, normally you used to take a compliment and be thankful, but now look at you, just pompous.
I mean, you can't be heel and then be grateful. It's not just to go together.
That's true. You are playing the role.
No.
All right. So so I'll tell you why Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez were fighting giants. Because they were fighting giants. They were fighting people that were not in their weight class. Demetrius Johnson in particular, if you believe, please, Jason, please tell me you don't believe that the dude Demetrius Johnson fought, and forgive me for forgetting his name right now.
Yuya Wakamatsu, because I interviewed him, so I know that name.
Okay, yeah. Yuya Makawatsu.
Wakamatsu,
like Waka Flocka Flame. All right.
Yes.
So, okay. So this guy was nowhere near 132 pounds. Nowhere near. Like, this guy was massive. Like, if this guy was anywhere under 150,
Did you
Yes.
weigh him, Anthony? You were there. You weighed him.
His legs were bigger than DJ's entire body.
You didn't weigh him. This is still
No,
speculation.
actually, yes,
it's still speculation.
I didn't weigh him, and you know who else didn't weigh him? One championship.
So then you're saying Demetrius Johnson is in on a facade?
Dude,
he's in on it. He's in on it.
I mean, DJ's trying to get paid, man. He's got an esports deal lined up with him. This man is about to get dumb paid and get respect that he didn't get in the UFC. So, hey, if you got to fight, you got to fight an NBA player to do it, knock yourself out. But this dude, what Waka Flocka Flame was massive compared to Demetrius Johnson. Massive. You understand? There is no way this guy is anyone's flyweight or bantamweight with legs that size. That's ridiculous. Especially now, I can understand if this guy could cut to make the weight, yes. But remember, they solved weight cutting. Trash, okay? I'm not buying it. I'm not. Now, this is the thing that I liked about one. I like the product. I like the fights. I had a great time watching it. I enjoyed watching one championship. I took an edible and I watched one and I watched it live and it was fantastic. It was great. But let me tell you this. If you believe that they are actually weighing these fighters properly, when there's no record of actual weigh-ins, there's no pictures of weigh-ins. I haven't seen a scale anywhere near the one championship logo. We got some problems, man. We got some problems. I'll tell you one thing, and they're making these big plans to come to the U.S. And you were the first to jump on this one in your conversation with Chatri, that he was planning on making a move into Madison Square Garden. When I talked to Rich Franklin and Eddie Alvarez, they were talking about possible U.S. debut in 2020. So they've got plans to make it over to the U.S., but they better actually start regulating what the hell is going on there. As much as we rip apart athletic commissions, and I'm sure I'll do it before this episode is over. Oh, excuse me. I'm sure I will rip apart an athletic commission before the hour is up. But I can guarantee you that an athletic commission that's even remotely credible would have some serious problems with the lack of transparency in one championship.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. And that's why I want them to come so that can happen. I'm not going to go as far as saying this guy fought a lightweight, but yeah, that is because I agree. I enjoyed watching it. I like them.
You're right. He fought a welterweight, but continue.
Fine. I want them to do well. I like competition in the sport, but yeah, it is a problem. The fact that they don't do the weigh-ins, they don't show it, which is weird because when they had the guy that died after the weigh-ins, didn't they used to do video weigh-ins at that time?
Honestly, I don't remember. I remember that headline, and I remember watching. The thing is, I've never until last weekend. I haven't watched a one championship event from start to finish. I always went back and watched individual fights. Yeah. So, all the lead up to a fight, I never really got a hold of. So I don't remember, but I do know this. I didn't see anything about no weigh-ins.
Yeah, no, and they didn't do a weigh-in show, and that is without a doubt seriously problematic, and it does worry me. But the only thing is, I just don't, for guys like Eddie Alvarez and Dimitri Johnson, who they're sinking a lot of money to, I don't think they're just going to screw them and just throw them in there with much bigger guys. And these guys have say, they have reach. They can go out there and go public. Yo, this guy, they fucked me over. I fought a guy that was 150 pounds, so yeah, they're bigger than expected. I mean, but without a doubt, I will agree with you 1,000%. They need transparency. That's a big cloud over the promotion that's growing and doing well. And that weigh-in thing is very funky. And they do need to do something about that.
All right. So Jason, are you in agreement with me of the just ridiculous amount of hyperbole on this broadcast?
I don't know. Maybe I tuned it out. Because all you guys on Twitter are talking about it. So, I mean, maybe I tuned it out. I didn't personally notice it, but you guys are bringing it up. Yeah, it's probably ridiculous. Everybody's talking about it, so it's probably ridiculous. I feel like it's one of those you fake it till you make it kind of things. I mean, and in fight promotion, hyperbole is the name of the game. Yeah, they're probably overdoing it, but maybe that's what works for them in Asia and that stuff like that. And they're trying to bring it to here to the US. So all I can say is if you guys are unhappy with it, keep saying something. And maybe they'll hear it like, okay, we need to turn down the hyperbole. This is where we have our power as media and fans to go, okay, guys, turn it down a little bit. It's getting a little ridiculous. This isn't the most watched show in the universe, you know? So, you know, there you go.
See, Jason, one of the things I simultaneously dislike about you and like about you is how well balanced and reasonable you can be. I am not taking.
When you have children around, you're forced to be that.
Okay, well, I have the maturity of a child, so I just do whatever. So this is really like now maybe because if I remember correctly, you just watched the main card, right? Mm-hmm. The next morning.
Yeah, I had gotten back from Philadelphia.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you drove back from Philly. So I watched the prelims and everything also, and I watched all those live. From start to finish, we heard time and time again, this was the greatest mixed martial arts event. No, actually, no, not mixed martial arts. This is the greatest martial arts event in the history of the world. This is it. Like we're in 75.3 billion homes across 12 galaxies and Klingons.
That's impressive. 12 galaxies is pretty good.
I'm like, yo, like chill out. Like that's not true. It's not true. Like
it's fake it till you make it. They're breaking into the market. It's ridiculous without a doubt. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. You don't want to push because that's one thing as MMA fans and MMA audience and the media, we're smart to it. We're not dumb. We get it, you know, and it's insulting to treat us like it's dumb. And that's a similar problem in professional wrestling with WWE. Sometimes they treat their fans like they're dumb, you know, but like I said, just make your voice heard, complain about it, say all these things, go on the podcast, say it's ridiculous. And hopefully they hear and go, okay, it wasn't in 12 galaxies. It was maybe in 6.
All right, so maybe this was probably the edible that was really throwing me off at this point. But like when that dude Mitch Chilson, I think his name was.
Oh, you're a big Mitch Chilson fan, big fan of his.
Wrong. Oh my God. The commentary, and I normally like Michael Chiavello. The thing is, you can't pair Michael Chiavello up with Michael Chiavello Jr. You can't do it. There's somebody has to be the voice of reason.
Don't tell his son that, man. That's mean.
Yeah. His son he can't do a broadcast with him. He can't. And then when Mitch would come in the cage and interview the winner, it was like he was announcing them all over.
Yeah.
He described me and saying. There was one point where I was legit staring at the TV, utterly confused, because I wasn't sure if the fight had just ended or if it was about to start. Because it just turned into, it was like, welcome. Like, bro, knock it off. There was one point where they were just yelling at each other. There was not a coherent word. They were just yelling back and forth. It drove me fucking insane. It drove me insane. Like I was like, I can't take this. Why? It's not necessary.
And it's tough too because Chiavello is over the top anyway. I mean, he's out over the tops Mauro Ranallo, and Mauro Ranallo is over the top. So yeah, to have double it, you got to, like you just mentioned with me, you got to have balance. So you need, if you're gonna have the crazy electric guy, you got to have the straight shooter. You know, that's what was always good about like Mauro Ranallo and Steven Quadros back in the Pride days. Mauro Ranallo was buck wild, but Steven Quadros is like that, you know, hard story news journalist kind of approach to it. So it's a really good balance. Or even Boss Rutten gave you technique. He was fun, charismatic, suave athlete to the nerd. It was a balance. Yeah, there's not a balance there, and it's not like this is for the Asian and American and European. This is only for the English speaking audience. So. You know, to do all that craziness, it doesn't fit what we're used to and we want and what we like. So to go different is,
just hard pass on that. I mean, Jay, a good comment that he just threw up in the Slack chat. Like you have John Anik to balance out Joe Rogan.
Yes,
you got to have that other personality. Yep. If you have, if like Michael Chiavello, I've heard him paired a lot with Pat Miletich. When he's doing commentary, that's a very good combo. Miletich, despite being a wild conspiracy theorist, is a very even keeled guy, and he and he speaks very directly and very plainly, and it's not this added sense of crazy to it. So when you have two guys with added sense of crazy, one of them being charismatic and kind of fun to listen to, the other one just being downright cringeworthy, it is very, very difficult. Now, I'm not going to trash this man any further. But wow, that was super trash. Super trash. Yeah, got to knock that off. They got to knock that all the way the fuck off, man. All right, so
if Jimmy Smith's available, that's the guy they should go get.
Yes, yeah, you need a guy like Jimmy Smith to bring some order to the anarchy, because even when they had that one segment, I don't know if you saw this part, because I think this was right before the main card started, and they were trying to imitate the whole Joe Rogan and Dana White yelling at each other routine.
Oh yeah, Chatru was yelling. I was like,
oh my god, and it's like, Chatru, that's not you, my guy. That's not you.
Yeah,
that's not you. I know you've spoken with him several times, so I know like. I mean, that doesn't seem like his personality at all. It's just
it didn't fit.
So my reaction to that was tweeting out in all caps, yelling. Was like, that's all I hear was just screaming at each other. Super trash. It's unnecessary. The fights were good. The mixing up different martial arts into the event was fantastic. Watching Muay Thai with MMA gloves in a cage was fantastic. But I mean, if whether I'm one of 76 trillion people across the Milky Way that are watching it, it just no, it's not true. I'm sorry, it's just not true. Knock it off. Please knock it all the way the fuck off. Yeah, just knock it off. All right. That's all I got to say about that one. All right. So now we're gonna go on to a little more drama talk, I guess, because we got a question from Marshall Beef. I like that name. Confused by it, but I like the name. He asked, does bare knuckle boxing have any potential at all? I feel inclined to tune in to the Lobov and Jason Knight fight. Jason, what say you?
It matters of what you feel. What's your ceiling? If you think it's going to be the UFC level, no, I wouldn't go there. But it does have potential to have staying power, and especially because when this started, you had other promotions come up like a World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation, which, we talked about before, didn't pay a lot of fighters. Like the pretenders have kind of started to fall back, and they've come forward, and they seem to be like the lone force who's doing it with some success. They're working their way slowly up. They're starting to, they got Paulie Malignaggi on board now. They got Antonio Tarver on board, so they're getting some really good names from different sports that are bringing it a lot of relevance and legitimacy. So, and they're doing it the right way, slowly working their way up. So, I mean, we're talking about it, it's got names that are drawing attention to it. So yeah, I think it has potential to be a nice niche sport that can do some things. Maybe one day it gets to like a 2,000 to 5,000 seat arena on a consistent basis. Is it going to be, 20,000 seat? I don't see that happen. One, because it's only fucking legal in 2 states. So it's always going to hit a ceiling on a certain level. But I think it could be a very nice thing, and it's a secondary option for a lot of MMA fighters right now. It may become a secondary option for some boxers. So it may have a lot of appeal because you see real life boxers, real life MMA guys, and we meet them in the middle somewhere, like we're going to probably see with Lobov and Malignaggi, and that's pretty cool niche to have.
All right, so Jay just wanted us to mention that we should not forget that Dada 5000, mixed martial arts veteran, Bellator veteran, Dada 5000 is having his first bare knuckle event this weekend with a 3-sided cage, a trigon, and that includes bare knuckle boxing and MMA. So
he's been doing the backyard stuff for a long time, so.
But not with the triangle, though.
No, you got to bring him in somehow. You got to go with that triangle.
Not the triangle. Yeah, I mean, wow. I'll watch it. Like here's the thing. Like I think you hit on some very good points there, because we're not seeing the next revolution in sports with bare knuckle boxing. We're just not. But we'll watch it. It's going to be fun, and of course this wrinkle with bare knuckle MMA that Dada 5000 is introducing or whatever. Hey, it could be fun to watch, but let's keep in mind the same hurdles that the UFC had. in regulation. Like
Yep.
there was a reason why Dothan, Alabama was the home of the UFC for a while, because that's the only place that would allow this to happen. And Colorado. So like you're going to have these same issues. Like it's not going to grow, but so much unless it's regulated. And the thing is, the UFC had to compromise a lot in the original product of mixed martial arts as we first were introduced to it in order to get licensed, in order to be able to grow the sport. So there's a definite ceiling on this. Now, I think now if they stay within that realm, they'll be just fine. The people working for that company will make a lot of money. The fighters will make decent money, I guess. So there is definitely an audience for it. You offer this on a weekend where there isn't a UFC for the first time, 10 weeks or something like that. You offer this for $30-$35 or whatever the cost is. Yeah, you might have a few knuckleheads tune in. We probably will tune in. Like if you're on this chat right now, if you're listening right now, if you're hosting this show right now, you probably will be watching bare knuckle boxing. And that's cool. That's a good lane to have at that price point with these certain personalities in it. And they are doing things in the right way by just going ahead and taking advantage of the personalities you have. Getting Paulie Malignaggi, I know we talked about this before. Getting Paulie Malignaggi is a big, big plus. To have Paulie Malignaggi smack Artem Lobov at their media event ahead of this is the best thing that could happen for bare knuckle boxing. The best thing. Now, if Jason Knight goes out there and beats Artem Lobov, yeah, you kind of messed up.
That's the worst thing that could happen.
you just messed up by not booking that fight right away. That might happen too. That throws a monkey wrench in the plans.
Yep.
But still, man, I do think there's a ceiling on this. There's a definite ceiling, but enjoy it. Enjoy it in that range. Like this doesn't have to sell out Madison Square Garden. We do not need to see this at Saitama Super Arena. We don't need to have this being this international craze, but it can still be very successful on the level that it's on now.
And I like that so far it's Mississippi, I think it was South Dakota or maybe Wyoming the last event. And I dig that like a notable sports event that people are interested in outside of college sports are happening in these states, that are the UFC and Bellator and NFL and NBA are not going to. So I dig that it's going to these states that are getting something cool that they usually don't get. So I like that, not that way too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Jay's reminds Wyoming and Mississippi are the two states. Yep. All right. Yeah, because this one, this is in Biloxi, I think.
Yeah, Mississippi. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was texting Oscar today, who's covering it for Mac Life. So.
Nice.
Yeah, Artem Lobov on the court. Mac Life's got to be there,
Oh God.
You know how that goes. All right. So let's go ahead, and we got one good question to wrap this up. I will double back on the YouTube chat to make sure I didn't miss any really good nuggets there before we close the broadcast. But the last prepared question we have comes from Europe One again. This guy is earning all the kung fu bows out there. He asks, he says, I always love Shinya Aoki, but the guy really is a rambunctious scoundrel. He said rambunctious scoundrel. That's a kung fu bow right there. I love the verbiage right there. So he says, I can't help but to cheer for him. Are there any fighters who are unsavory, but you guys can't help but to love? Note, you're both not allowed to pick Rampage. Well, damn you, because that's the first person I thought of. But, all right.
Well, one Europe One, I hope you read my article with Shinya Aoki last week. I hope you pay attention to that. I agree. Shinya Aoki is that kind of guy because he's love him or hate him. The way he reacts after fight. For me, and I guess maybe because he rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I don't love him as a person, but he's always been one of my favorite fighters. I'm wearing his shirt right now. Is a Brock Lesnar. That was one of the guys that really drew me to the sport because of his wrestling connection. He's another love him or hate him, and he's a guy that rubs people the wrong way. But I've always been a fairly big Brock Lesnar fan.
Man, a few different names come to mind. I mean, the Diaz brothers are just knuckleheads and a half, but we all love them. We all are entertained by them. Conor McGregor is another. I think maybe Conor McGregor will probably be the best name that I can answer with, and not necessarily that I'm this huge McGregor fan that always roots for him or anything like that, but he makes the sport better. His presence elevates an event. When he is fighting, everything is more exciting. And I think if you are to deny that, you are in gross denial. If you are, if you deny it, you're in denial. Go figure.
Very poetic.
But yeah, very poetic. Yeah. Whoa, man, I need some of that Europe One diction right now. Host a talk show. What the fuck am I doing? But anyway, yeah, man, I think when Conor McGregor is fighting, it elevates an event. It feels bigger. Out of all the live combat sports events I've been to, the two that stand out the most as far as the electricity just around in the building was Wilder Fury and McGregor versus Nurmagomedov. Conor McGregor brings a different element of fandom, a different element of excitement to what's going on, whether you love him or hate him. And I think that is good for the sport in general. Some of his out of the cage behavior aside. Other names that I can think of.
I got one, and because you brought up excited, event you were at that had electricity. He was one that was an exciting event, and he just his fight just got announced, I think, yesterday. Chael Sonnen's kind of one of those guys. Love him or hate him, pain in the ass, but when he fights, I do watch. If it's boring or not, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and actually, just as you said that, Jay put that on the Slack chat as well. That is definitely a name that I should have said too. Chael Sonnen, man. And then on top of that, like I met the guy recently. God damn, that's a charming man.
Yes,
talking with him, he's very difficult to not like.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to TJ DeSantis back when I was working Sherdog Radio, and he commentated. I want to say Chael Sonnen had a grappling event. He had a submission grappling tournament or something. Submission Underground, I think it was called. And TJ commentated that event. And I think he had interviewed him and talked to him several times before. And Jordan Breen told me the same thing, actually. He's like, yeah, you can say all you want about Chael being a cheater and the bad things he says and he's this and he's that. He's like, man, when you meet that dude, he'll charm the shit out of you.
Yeah,
it's like you will want to be his best friend.
Yeah,
Chael is definitely a guy that belongs in this discussion. So yeah, all right. So I guess that wraps up the prepared questions that we have. Some nuggets that are going on right now on the chat. There seems to be a debate about whether or not Dada 5000 would lose to Dominic Cruz in a sanctioned MMA fight. Cruz would smoke him because Dada would get gassed after 2 punches.
The gassing, that's the thing that was up. Getting gassed, of course.
Stalex, I guess that's how it's pronounced. He says, no way Dada is connecting on Cruz after 2 swings. He is gassed. I agree. Good call there. Let's see what else we got. We've got debates about the John Anik and Joe Rogan team. Frank McGregor says DC and Joe Rogan are the best combo to date. Yeah, I do love that. I love that pairing, and I think John Anik is perfect for that pairing too.
Yes,
because he's like Rogan and DC are like Danny Glover and Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon. And John Anik is the police captain that's trying to keep them from blowing up the whole city.
Yeah. Yep.
So I do like that pairing. See, Jason Hartley, the homie Jason Hartley is in the chat, agrees with me that Mitch is the worst. Yes, Mitch. Ooh, super trash. We got a debate here about the weight cutting in one championship. And let's see, from Sev Belong, if that's how that's pronounced. Apologize if I got that wrong. It says Angela Lee fought in a higher weight class, but she obviously lost a lot of weight for the Tokyo fight. She sure didn't look like she fought on her walking weight as they advertised. Yes, that's exactly the point.
So what is he saying? Zhang was much bigger? Because that woman was not much bigger than her.
No, Angela Lee was much bigger than her.
And isn't she coming up?
Angela Lee was the smaller fighter, according to paper.
Yeah.
So the funny stuff going on around them scales, bro.
It is
funny stuff.
They need transparency.
Funny stuff, man.
Well, you said there was a debate. Well,
all I'm saying is next time you have lunch with Chatri, y'all go ahead and talk about this, okay?
I'll make sure to do it.
Thank you. Tell him I said hello.
I won't.
Yeah, he would like Anthony. Who? Man, fuck that.
I had to go Beeman. Oh, Beeman.
Oh,
yes.
Beeman. Yeah, you dropped the full government. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. So now all the Twitter trolls, they're gonna look me up in the white pages. I'm gonna box some motherfuckers outside of my apartment. Yeah, I've been getting some more Twitter trolls lately. Shout out to y'all.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Come on, get this smoke, baby. Get this smoke. Someone is accusing me of refrigerating my edibles. Yes, some of them are refrigerated. Yeah, it depends on what kind they are. Let's see what else. Oh, also you're being asked to accuse me of being a delusional drug fiend, and the edible has warped my mind.
I think they might be onto something with that. Might be onto something.
This person might be a jerk.
Maybe your trolls moved from Twitter and have followed you to YouTube now.
That is possible. Thanks, designated member. I thought we were on the same team here. All right. So I think that kind of wraps up a lot of the stuff. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of comments on the chat, and I apologize if I missed any really good nuggets, but I can't get to them all and keep this entertaining. So thank you so much for your participation. We hope to see you next week for the next edition of The Trenches. And Jason Burgos, Captain Credential, on your last co-hosting duty for The Trenches before I replace you, what would you like the listeners to know about that you have coming for Sherdog.com in the future?
Well, I mean, you can always follow me on Instagram or Twitter, Cheap Seats Chat. It's located right there. You can find all the information on my new podcast with Jay. Maybe James Lynch will be on it. He's a nice guy too. It'll be much better than this. Much better. It'll be huge, as our president would say. But not too much. This is a fairly slow week. Some difficulties getting interviews that I just got emailed about a possible interview. So only thing I have up this week is actually, speaking of Bare-Knuckle, I have one half of the main event, Jason Knight. I interviewed him late last week or early last week. And that was pretty cool. Again, talked to him, got some good information about when he left the UFC, trying to sign with other promotions, not getting good offers. And then Bare-Knuckle came around. I talked about the gym he opened up in where he's come from, which I forgot the town's name, but in Mississippi. And he opened it, of course, to start a business, but he's also hoping it's a place that's an outlet for the youth in the area. Because in his words, he said a lot of young people around there, all they have is like baseball, football, or they do drugs. So he felt MMA saved his life. So he wants to give youth in his community a chance to maybe the MMA do the same thing and give them something to strive for and goals, which I thought was pretty damn awesome. So, that story's up on Sherdog right now. But otherwise, pretty slow week. That's it.
Yeah, man. Jason Knight, pretty decent dude. I interviewed him once about a couple years ago, I think it was. But also, so designated member also is accusing you of all your nerd relics in the background were bought with ONE FC blood money, he says.
That's a bad thing?
I think it's fantastic, actually.
That's what when I was handing out the bloody money, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, I need some of this blood money. I need some of this blood money. I want nerd relics and stained with crimson.
You have nerd relics. You're just at work. But at home you have tons of nerd relics.
That is true. That is true. All right. So StyleX is asking, is Jay really starting his own podcast? Not to my knowledge. If I kick Jason off the trenches, which actually I don't really have the authority to do.
Nope.
So I'm kind of stuck with him. And Jay being a very good producer in the background as well. So
Jay is off the grid, so he definitely is not going to have a podcast.
Yeah, he wouldn't do that.
Jay is the kind of guy that would have his profile picture would just be the silhouette of a black shape.
That would be pretty dope, actually. And they can blur his voice out.
Yeah. He would be like cool. if he had video, it'd be like in those interviews where like it's a secret person, so they're kind of shaded out and you just see background, but they're all darkened and pixelated. It'd be like that.
No. All right,
it'd actually be pretty good.
Oh yeah. Also, a designated member says he can't wait for Frank McGregor on next week's podcast. So I mean, the movement has started, Jason.
Wow.
Started. You might be up out of here. You just might be up.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, and one last question from Mike S. He asks, "Yo, Ant, what do you think happens first? Yoel Romero gets a title shot at middleweight or gets a title shot at light heavyweight?" I say light heavyweight. He's asking, is Yoel pulling out as a precursor to move to light heavyweight? I don't know.
He was going there anyway.
I thought he was too. And if he's not, he should.
Yeah, really.
He should. So, but anyway, so I, of course, am Ant Walker. You see my my name and my Twitter and Instagram name down there as well at Ant Walker MMA. So what I have coming up for Sherdog.com, Ask Ant, the mailbag column, will be live probably tomorrow. I'm thinking I'm going to write that when I get home. I mean, I don't have to turn it in at my normal time because we don't have a Good, Bad, and the Ugly series because there's no major MMA card going on this weekend that I have to do a post-fight column about. So I'm probably just going to watch the movies, chill out with my wife. Yeah. But Ask Ant will be live. Also, I did another appearance for Collider Sports MMA Takedown Show. At this point, I should just say I'm like a co-host there. I'm on there
Honestly,
all the time now.
You need to start getting paid for this. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, Dennis.
Collider,
Dennis,
cut that. You know what?
Cut the check, Collider. All right, so I'm gonna holler at them. I'm gonna holler at them about that. All right, yeah. So I got that going on. Yeah, but I know there's some boxing going on this weekend. So if you want some good boxing content, check out the homie Matt Hunter on Mixed Combat Radio. So I'm sure he's gonna do a live broadcast associated with whatever boxing is going on this weekend. But
is he covering Bare-Knuckle? Is he interested in Bare-Knuckle?
I'm sure he is. He watches everything, but I'll talk to him and see what he's thinking about that. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably watch Bare-Knuckle. Maybe I'll jump on my YouTube live stream about that. I don't know. We'll see. It depends on if my wife wants to do something that night. Then hey, I gotta put y'all motherfuckers aside for a second. I'm sorry. I love y'all though. So yeah, anyway, so that's what you can do. Hit me up on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. So until next week, for the trenches, I am Ant Walker. He's Jason Burgos. And you know what you got to do, everyone. You must stay beautiful. You must stay positive. You got to be ready to handle these fools out here in the streets. You got to be ready to slip, dodge, bob, weave, all that good stuff. And while you're doing that, the most important part of it all, you must remain sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace, y'all.